Hello, my name is Robert Emmett Hernan. I'm the head of Blue Stack Productions, Inc., the publisher of Irish Environment, an online resource for environmental matters on the island of Ireland. We are today for another in our series of conversations on environmental matters. I'm very happy today to be here in Dublin with Alice Ryan from Cultivate. Welcome, Alice.
Thank you.
Alice, now you're part of the Cultivate. Could you tell the audience what Cultivate is and what it does?
Cultivate is a cooperative that works to promote information about environmental awareness in Ireland. Started back in 1998 by Ben Whelan and Davy Phillip. And they came together with the aim to have seminars and workshops and information sessions for people in a whole range of different areas to do with the environment. A lot of issues about building and about energy efficiency, but also about food and economy and local practices.
It was started as a workers' cooperative, and why is workers' cooperative as opposed to some other form of a non-profit organization?
Well, the aim was always to have a grassroots society. So the workers' cooperative, the idea behind that was to give all the people who gave their time and their energy to the cooperative would have a buy-in and would have a reason to help to build the cooperative. So it was very much a grassroots, bottom-up idea to have it as a workers' cooperative.
And it remains a workers' cooperative, right?
Yes, it does.
And now, was there a triggering event to form the cooperative? Was there some event that took place or some development that led to this cooperative being formed at that time in 1998?
Well, it was when Ben Whelan had just moved back to Dublin, and then he met Davy Phillip, who was studying Maynooth. And Davy was setting up a World Earth Fair, and when he met Ben, and it was really just the coming together of those two people who had a very clear idea of what they wanted to do as far as raising awareness about environmental issues, and they started together to work on the first Convergence Festival, and that happened in the year 2000, and it was hugely ambitious program. They had hundreds of different events over a 10-day period in lots of different locations, and from that the community started to build, and people got in contact and got in touch, and they were able to get the location in Temple Bar, which is where the Viking Adventure Centre was, and they set up there, and they have a beautiful garden in what was previously just a bit of wasteland. They built raised beds and the like, and then we set up the shop. And so the centre operated for many years in that location as being sort of a public front where people could come and gather and listen to events and talks and seminars about this subject area, but also buy the tools within the shop or look at methods within the garden. So it was very much a hands-on solutions.
One of the terms that you use frequently on the website and in the work that you do is that of resilience. Now in the Surfing the Waves of Change, which is this wonderful video that you have on, you talk about, they define resilience, and there's adapting to change and recovering from shock in a way. And so it always has this sense of there's some misfortune and it's pulling back from that or coming out of that. Is that the way in which you mean it? That there's this shock of within the culture because of the environmental assaults?
I mean, we would always look at it from the point of view of the twin challenges of peak oil and climate change. So that's what the Paradigm series of television programs that we produced and Cultivate was dealing with, is how are we going to deal with the twin challenges of peak oil and climate change. And what peak oil says is that the oil is running out. So the era of cheap oil is over. And going forward, the energy is just going to get more and more expensive. So how are we going to adapt to that when it changes? How can we make our lives resilient around us, be it with our buildings or our food or our transport, to deal with these shocks that are going to come up down the line?
How do you help people become resilient? I mean, that's a hard thing to do. As we were talking earlier, this whole idea of how do you talk to people about these things. How do you as an organization help people become resilient to these shocks, to adapt to these shocks?
Well, we believe a lot in building community. That's one of the major things that we've been working on, is trying to get these conversations going, having people talking to each other within their community about ways that they can change. Food is obviously a big thing. So within the city, there's is now very exciting community garden sort of renaissance, where people are very keen to get out and get growing, and the Dublin City Council is very, very responsive at the moment to setting up new allotments and new community gardens. So it's not that we're going to be able to feed ourselves tomorrow on our little allotments, but what we're doing there is A, building community, we're all meeting our neighbours and starting to do these things together, and B, sort of building our skills and just, you know, slowly but surely, you know, finding ways and means, so that further on down the line, you know, we'll know a little about seed saving and growing and harvesting water and the like. So it's a lot is about building community, but it's also about learning skills.
I guess the quintessential community that you have is now in Clough-Jordan, which is the Eco Village. Could you tell the audience what that Clough-Jordan is, or what happens at Clough-Jordan?
Sure. Well, the Village project started maybe 10 or 12 years ago, when a group of people came together with a vision to set up a sustainable community, which would be a village where people would build, you know, environmentally sound houses with natural materials that were very energy efficient, and then they would have space for them for growing food within the village. And they originally were looking for a site that was on its own, so they could build a new village, and then they realised that, of course, there's many beautiful villages in Ireland that are in decline population wise, and that in fact linking up with an existing village would be a benefit both for the eco village and for the existing village. And so they found this land in Clough-Jordan, which is actually located right beside the main street, so the entrance to the eco village is in the main street of Clough-Jordan, so they're very much combined. And then obviously you've got the infrastructure of schools and shops, and a really interesting historical community there as well. So they've developed well together. So there's now about 50 families living down in the eco village. About half of the sites have been sold, and more are going up each week. So it's a really exciting time to see the eco village as it develops. When they first moved down to Clough-Jordan, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, they planted a certain amount of trees. Those trees are now coming into their own, so you get a real vision of how it's going to look sort of 5 or 10 years time when the planting has matured. But they've done a lot of planting, that, you know, thousands of trees in the surrounding area, but also with the allotments and lots of fruit bushes throughout the village.
To what extent are the gardens there able to sustain the community? Is there a certain percentage that
in Clough-Jordan?
Yeah, in Clough-Jordan.
Well, in Clough-Jordan, they're working in a very interesting model called community supported agriculture. So there's 2 farmers who work the main farmland in the eco village, and each of the members of the community pay €20 a week to be part of the community supported farm. And so that any of the produce, it's a lot of veg, there's milk from the cows, there's eggs, all comes back in to a central location in the village, and then people can go and just take what they need. So it's a really lovely system where they can just nip in and get a couple of eggs, and because they all have a buy-in within the farm, they understand if the crops fail, and they support the farmer. You know, it's not this sort of, you're not removed from the farmer in the way we are with the supermarket. So it's much more of a joint community venture. So that would be, you know, the major produce of the village is coming from the farm, and then the allotments supplement that.
What other activities happen at Clough-Jordan? Are there training sessions there? I know you have the training session going on there next month in August.
That's right. Yeah, there's an open day weekend for people to go down and see the village and see it in practice. In August, there's a 10-day permaculture course. Yes. Which is very much it's an intensive immersive course. So if you go down and spend 10 days there in the eco village and get training on various different aspects of permaculture, be it gardening or building or the design principles. So it's a fantastic experience because there's many different teachers who input in the different days. So there's a great mixture of skills and experience there for the students to learn from. But also it's like a great big classroom in itself. They're down there doing their cob workshops, beside the cob buildings that are being created by hand, or they're doing the seed saving on the farm, the community supported farm. So it's a great classroom to do a permaculture course in is Clockroad.
Maybe what we can kind of end on this one is the when you talk about the very first project that the founders did, which was this massive kind of very important, that has a flavor of the Convergence Festival, which is now going on. And could you tell the audience what that Convergence Festival is?
Well, the Convergence Festival has been running for 10 or 12 years since the creation of Cultivate, and the idea is in the name is to bring people together each year to talk about the important issues within the environmental sphere. This year they started, it was opened by Michael D. Higgins, came to Clockroad Eco Village and did a beautiful speech from there, and we've had a number of events in City Hall here in Dublin, mainly looking at sort of conversations about the future that we want, so the sort of projecting where people want to be, you know, going forward, but also looking at the values that underpin that. How are we going to make it happen? What are the values people need to have in order to make the changes that we need to build our resilience in our communities?
Certainly still a resilient organization, and we hopefully that keeps going. Thank you very much, Alice, for talking with us.
Thank you
Thanks.
both.